starting up the
Yeah.
live stream.
Yeah, I'm getting it right now. It's loading.
Nice. Very happy to see people as they join here at Writers Lunch. Welcome to another one, and we're very happy to have you here. In the middle of the summer, nobody wants to go outside unless it is to get the heck out of Houston, for sure. Now Anna, I do know that you took a trip recently. Where was it that you guys went?
We went to the UK and we spent a few days in London and then we took the train up to like northern Scotland and then back.
Hey, anybody else who has taken a trip recently, toss them in the chat. We want to talk about them absolutely. And Anna, did you get any writing done while you were on your trip?
Um not
It's
this
fine if
particular
no.
not this particular one. I took my my computer with me and my notebook with me, but it was a family trip that my husband and I had planned, and so we were kind of like in charge of everyone else. So we had to deal with that. So I didn't really get a lot of time to write, but I did, take some notes in my notebook and, that kind of thing. So,
Well, there are absolutely, like I love this, and I'm gonna put some things in there about like my regular travel versus traveling as a writer, and it's just two different modes for sure. One thing as well being, did you bring books with you? Did you read while you were, traveling?
oh yeah. Oh yeah, I read. I brought a library book with me. So yeah.
I love bringing library books to like other countries. Absolutely.
Yeah. Unfortunately, it wasn't a very good book, but that's okay.
That's why that's a bad thing that it was a library book then, because sometimes it's good to take a trip and then you can leave books that you're reading where you're going, and so then you have more room in your suitcase for sure.
Yeah.
So if I can say welcome, and I thank you for coming to see us at Writers Lunch today, y'all. My name is Sean Carroll. I am one of the writers with Tomeworks, aka tomeworksedits.com. We present these every week, and we're very happy to bring writerly things to you. Check us out on Eventbrite to find out when our next ones are upcoming and what our topics will be. And you can always watch the repeat at any time on YouTube. Writers Lunch is our channel on there. So however you're finding us, thank you for coming. Absolutely. And to talk about my traveling like a writer here, I'm very interested in one, travel first, and then two, my writing as well. And so they really just seem to like go well together. But I noticed some differences between how you typically travel and what people want to see. And traveling like a writer fits so well with ideas that I already had about how I would like to travel. So this is a topic that I really love, absolutely. I So the question definitely can be, well, why travel as a writer? Why change your mode of traveling and do it in this different way? One, they always say, write what you know. So in order to write about other places, perhaps you should go see it. You can get some insight into how people live in other places in the world. This is your research and investigation. It doesn't even have to be you went to Istanbul, you were going to write a story about Istanbul. It can just be little small observations about people that you can then use in other contexts. But gaining this new perspective on basically how your world is shaped and how you're able to observe and kind of take in. Travel is the opportunity to do so. And hopefully, you can bring some of that stuff back home with you and learn to observe and kind of like imagine things about your environment, even where you live. It just requires a bit of detachment for sure. This also gives you time and opportunity to read. So, as Anna said in the beginning there, went on a trip, it was with family, had to be in charge of everything. That's pretty difficult for sure, but lots of time on a plane, on a train, on a boat, on a bus, whatever. And this gives you that chance to catch up on reading, and that just puts words into your mind. If you are reading as you're traveling, you're going to be more inclined to write for sure, either now or when you get home. reset your mind, and looking with new eyes is a great one to me because I work a lot. It's difficult to get out of my daily thing. I wake up in the morning, I think about all the emails that I have to send. I think about all the things that I have to do that day. I wake up on vacation, I look at the sunrise and can contemplate that. And sometimes that's the only way that you can break out of the habit of doing all these things and feeling very constricted by your daily life. As well, compare and contrast. If you have not been able to question why it is that the things are done the way that they are, the place that you live, then going to somewhere else can definitely push that, can change that for sure. And you might think about, well, why am I always taking a car ride when something is 5 minutes away? If it would take me a 20-minute walk, and I'm not getting especially heavy things and coming back with it. I love to grocery shop as a European does, essentially. I go in there, I do not grab a basket. I grab things in my hands, and when I cannot hold anything else, I am done shopping, which leads me to 4 or 5 shopping trips a week. But at the same time, as I'm doing that, it's usually when I'm passing by. And so it's just a quick little thing. And in a way, this is how a lot of other people in other parts of the world who have a more, what do they say, 15-minute city, you should be able to reach all the different kind of things that you need: a place to eat, a park to play in, your work, and somewhere to buy groceries within a 15-minute walk of where you live. That's how a lot of people in other countries in Europe and Asia and Africa, that's how they live. And so it's very different than how we are set up in a system in America where it's very car based. And if you go out, you had better get everything done. You had better get this task finished for an extended period of time. On top of that as well, why not travel? I do acknowledge for sure that it can be difficult to travel, and I'm talking about something that is kind of high level, that is kind of like you are able to pay your bills, get things done, because cost and the opportunity, the chance to leave is sometimes difficult to take. So I do acknowledge that completely, but hey, pie in the sky, you can always look to being able to travel when you have the chance. So this may come in handy later. Little box in the corner. This presentation will be generally focused on able-bodied individuals, but ideas and mods for disabled individuals will be down here on some slides. So that's that little blue box, not always acknowledging that it's not always possible to get everything done from a able-bodied perspective. And when you're talking about travel, that can be a big, big thing for sure. So, first off, look at some famous authors who have used and valued travel. Alex de Tocqueville was a French author who traveled early America and just kind of discovered how this new country, as it was being built, as it was growing, was forming itself. He took those ideas back to Europe, wrote about it, and it was a very popular book back in the 1800s about this new country. People just discovering it, absolutely. Joseph Conrad, a British writer, and very much had some antique ideas about the world. Did not include Rudyard Kipling on this for sure, for a very similar reason, that he just kind of was of his time, but he valued definitely being able to go places and explore them in order to describe them. Ernest Hemingway wrote very much thinly veiled versions of his own life in his fictional novels. In World War I, in the Spanish Civil War, out fishing with the old man in the sea, and just kind of like played with the idea of like, this is something I've experienced, so I can write about it. Elizabeth Gilbert, Eat, Pray, Love, that was extremely popular as a book as well as a movie for sure, but very well known and very much more on the memoir tip. In order to throw a curveball into it as well, Mary Shelley, author of Frankenstein back in the day, very much used her travels around Europe, around England, to Italy, to Switzerland, through France, and these opportunities to write and be in a different environment where she'd not have the pressures of daily life, in order to kind of reframe her ideas, as well as be exposed to different authors and different writings in different places to gain more influences and get different influences than what she would have had at home. Frankenstein itself was written on Lake Geneva on a weekend, a week, when they were basically shut in. And the goal was, let's all write a story here. And so, with her friends, she sat down, wrote these things, and that became the germ of the idea for the book Frankenstein. So, terribly different than things that were written at the time. Arguably one of the first sci-fi novels for sure. And she did this on vacation, essentially. So take those vacations as ideas, as potential places to change your mode of thinking and right outside the box. A couple of examples here. I'm going to check on the chat as well. Shut in with Lord Byron. Oh, yes, very true. The From Gilbert Chesterton, the traveler sees what he sees. It comes to him. The tourist sees what they have come to see. They go out and grab only what it is. Through travel the world over, though we travel the world over to find the beautiful, we must carry it with us, or we will find it not. And that's from Ralph Waldo Emerson. Basically, you have to seize those things and bring them back and interpret them in order to fully understand what it is you have seen by traveling. And the last one right here by Samuel Johnson, the use of travel is to regulate imagination by reality. There's so many times you might be sitting in front of a keyboard going, gosh darn it, don't know what to write today. Take a walk, get outside, plan a trip, just look on the internet, consider going to a place. These kind of mental, stretching of ideas to try and see what you might potentially want to do is absolutely a good way to stimulate the imagination. We're just using the real world. So here we are with some books about travel. A Tourist in the Arab Spring by Cham Chessier is basically him traveling through Tunisia, Egypt, etc. as revolutions are happening in these places. He's doing the tourist things. He's going to the famous sites, but in the meantime, the world is changing around him. A Year in Provence, absolutely popular, changed into a movie as well by Peter Mayle, but was written very much before and is very much an examination of one place and him seeing it through new eyes because he's not someone from there. Jack Kerouac and On the Road inspired a generation to get out, to spread across the United States, to see new things, to travel to San Francisco. But in this particular book, there's so many different things about his personal interactions on the road and how that changes things. And I wonder for sure how, hanging out with mom and dad and the whole family unit and traveling with them changed your ideas about them for sure. Siddhartha, Hermann Hesse, him traveling across the world, going on a spiritual journey, but it's very internal and looking at how he himself changes when faced with different things outside. Very much like Eat, Pray, Love. Siddhartha and Eat, Pray, Love, cousins for sure. On the bottom right there, Bill Bryson and A Walk in the Woods, a travel writer who has gotten very popular for writing nonfiction stuff about traveling. And there is an entire genre out there of travel writers, travel books, many of them very humorous for sure. George Orwell, his first book actually, before he went on to do 1984 and Animal Farm and all that, Down and Out in Paris and London, about his own life, thinly veiled. Was it fiction? Was it memoir? I'm not sure, but I have read this book, and similar to Hemingway's A Movable Feast, is him trying to scrape and straggle by when he's trying to be a struggling young writer. In a different vein as well, Paulo Coelho and The Alchemist, very well known in kind of self-help circles, and really is about traveling in the ancient world. But in that respect, he took traveling through these places and seeing bits of what was there and using it to create a character, to create a world, and to have an overarching theme based on feelings that he had as he was traveling, like Siddhartha, the self-examination through the Middle East and I believe Spain as well. Then we get to The Talented Mr. Ripley, which I know more as a movie than as a book, but it actually was first a book and was very popular in its own respect for sure, where Patricia Highsmith took a small Italian town and used it as the setting for a mystery. Now, in this case, the mystery could have been set really anywhere, but the location enlivened the story so much. Just like oh my gosh, am I gonna forget it? White Lotus. White Lotus, a lot of those characters you could see walking around downtown LA or in any city in America, but you transport them to somewhere else, all of a sudden the story is a lot more interesting. Here we have a quote from Wayne Curtis that I really loved. Travel writers are a bit like archaeologists, always looking beneath the surface and then trying to assemble stories out of the curious artifacts they uncover. The people that you see, the situations that you find yourself in, the vignettes that you watch are terribly interesting in terms of creating a story. And although some of those travel writers are very much writing things that come directly from their travels, there are a lot of authors that use these in different ways. Toss them in the chat if you guys have any ideas about different authors and how they use travel, how they change the world that they're seeing into a totally different place. Absolutely. So what's the difference between writer travel and regular travel? Always want y'all's comments on this. Feel free to toss them in the chat and we can talk about them. Always be reading. This is important. You can definitely watch movies on planes. I do as well, but I make sure to take extra time to read versus what I normally do at home when I'm traveling for sure. The other reason to have books, and this does mean physical media, when you are traveling, is you never know when you're going to be waiting for a train that's delayed, stuck in your hotel room during a thunderstorm. You need to have something to entertain you because you do not have the normal everyday life that you can normally, that you can get out and engage with. You don't have all your stuff. You have very little stuff. Don't run out of words. Second, observe and learn. Now, if you are an American traveling to Cancun and you go to a resort and it's all inclusive and they give you all your food and you go out on trips to see the dolphins or visit Chichen Itza or some ruins or anything, you're not going to get the chance to learn about local culture very much. That leads to three, be with locals. I very much enjoyed being in Tulum years ago, sitting at the little hotel bar. It was like a bunch of little shacks on the beach, but basically sitting at the little bar right there, and some locals would come there, which was very nice, and I reading the local paper, which was a communist newspaper. It did have all the news in Spanish, and I could not read it all for sure. But as opposed to the idyllic look at the world that you would definitely get from somewhere in a tourist spot if you're talking to them in English, this was talking about the two headless bodies that were found on the beach somewhere down the way from the town. There were things going on behind the scene, and I would not have ever found that if I did not pick up a local newspaper. Four, stay away from Americans. If there are Americans there, you probably don't want to be there if you are trying to travel as a writer. Now, in the case of staying in America, there are a lot of places to travel here for sure. That's not exactly it. You want to stay away from tourists. If you are going to Chicago, sure, you can totally go and see the Big Bean, take a photo in front of the big glassy surface of it, but also find some out of the way places. I was in Chicago years ago and decided to try and have as many Chicago beef sandwiches as I could. In the course of 6 days, I had 7 Chicago beef sandwiches, which was a little much for sure, but I was doing a lot of walking. And I can tell you, of all the fancy places we went, the tourist places we went, the places that I found in guidebooks, the best one that I found was at a 24-hour diner with one very scruffy looking guy in a corner who had his hot warmer of beef with spicy peppers in it, sitting there all freaking day. And I ordered 2 sandwiches at like 1 in the morning. Really, I did circles around this place trying to find it on an address in downtown Chicago for like an hour before I even found it. So 100% the best of the 7 sandwiches I found. Would never have found this on a best of list for sure. Take public transportation. If you're trying to see how people live in a different location, public transportation, and especially if you get out of the United States, public transportation is used by a much higher percent of the population. But even in the US, Baltimore, Albuquerque, what am I thinking of? Miami. I love to get on a subway, a bus, a train, and see how the town rolls by you slowly. It's interesting. It'll put you in a lot more situations to walk, to get from one place to another, and to have chance encounters. Walk, walk, walk. This is so important. If you go directly from your hotel to your location, let's say in an Uber, you will not see anything in between. The more you can put yourself in different situations where you're going to find chance encounters, the more things you'll be able to sketch out or to take a photo of or to write down a few words about a strange character you met or a very interesting old door or shop that you never would have run into anyway. Bring a half-empty suitcase. This is totally important. You want to bring things back with you, whether that is clothes, whether that is books, whether that is mementos. You should have some space in your suitcase when you are leaving to go someplace. It is terribly important to do writing travel. Either way, visit new places, even if you take the same trip again. If you're going to a different city if you're going to the same city that you've previously been to, there are many different ways to take a trip. I grew up in Buffalo, in upstate New York. The last time I went back, I went to Niagara Falls. The last time I was at Niagara Falls, I was probably 17 or so. For someone who's from there, it's not terribly interesting. It's a bunch of tourists. And when we went this time, it was tourists. But I had already done the kind of things where you see the city in a certain way. Boom, I was going to go see it in a different way. Caveat to all of this, a little blue box in the corner. It isn't possible for everyone to walk long distances or take public transportation. Getting to an interesting location where you can observe how people live is the goal, and those may be possible without these transportation methods. If it is possible for you to take that Uber from the hotel to a half from your destination, to string things together to where you're going from one place to another, but you have an intermediary that can give you the space to have some of those chance encounters, those interesting things happen. And this is with the caveat that, not everyone who is trying to travel is able-bodied, for sure. I'm going to check on this chat right here as this moves on. All right. Do I see public transport in all caps? Yes, I do. That's very nice. Absolutely. Anna, thank you for that. We went to an extremely local pub for dinner in Newcastle. Everyone was very nice and friendly, and they were even having a social event for women with ADHD. And your mom enjoyed. Oh, that's amazing. Absolutely. Mom, get a late stage diagnosis. Do it. Absolutely. Once you know how to read one subway map, you know how to read them all. It can be a little messy, but I understand your point. Got my parents very acquainted with the London Tube, and the other set of parents refused to do so. That's fine. They can pay for the Uber. They can pay for the taxi. It will be much more expensive, though. Now, all of these things, these concepts I'm describing, are very much of a certain ideology, and that is of the flaneur, or feminist term for it, the flaneur. In the definition of it, it says, is a type of urban stroller, lounger, saunterer, or loafer. This French term was popularized in the 19th century and has some nuanced additional meaning, including a man or woman of leisure, an idler, an urban explorer, and or a connoisseur of the street. A flaneur is an ambivalent figure representing the ability to wander detached from society for an entertainment from the observation of the urban life. And what are we trying to do as writers other than observe? I'm very much reminded of David Sedaris in this kind of thing because he just takes little bits out of his life and changes them into humorous stories. He molds the situation on the page, but he has to put himself into a real world situation in order to be inspired to find these. And I encourage y'all, as you travel, to find your inner flaneur or flaneuse. In the case of flaneuse as well, which, as I said, was a feminist response to the idea of a flaneur. It does definitely acknowledge that men and women travel differently, they idle differently, and they explore differently. So whereas a man may be perfectly fine with wandering at night through a not so great section of town in order to find a dimly lit bar and be able to write about the strange local characters that he finds in there, a woman may definitely not want to wander in a slightly sketchy neighborhood alone at night, but they may definitely be invited, AP, I'm going to use your example, into a group of women in a local pub to talk about something that is important to their life and they may not have been introduced to themselves. Whereas, yeah, dad was not invited into that conversation. Mom was invited into that conversation and could make friends that fast, which is amazing. Absolutely. And look at this one here as well. Oh my gosh, this is a little long, Rhonda. I love it, but New Orleans is a human jungle. I encourage you guys to check out this chat. I might read this whole thing out loud a little bit later, but absolutely. And love New Orleans. I took a trip to New Orleans recently and I took the train from Houston. I took the Amtrak train. It was perfectly fine to be in New Orleans, take public transportation, the occasional Uber, and I be dictated where we could go and how we would get there by the fact that we didn't have a car. That was pretty great. And in some other situations, in the case of Anna talking about going to London, you would not want to rent a car, and especially not going out to see the wilds of Scotland up there. For one, you'd have to learn how to drive on the opposite side of the road. Two, it would be prohibitively expensive. And for three, you do not get to see how other people are living. Absolutely. So here are some tools. Here are some tools. You guys have anything to add to this? You let me know. Absolutely. Tools of a traveling writer, notebooks and pens. Notebooks and pens, very important. I was almost going to add on to there, and one pencil. Because there are some situations where a pencil is better than a pen. Comfortable shoes. You are not going for one fashion in this case at all. Or to pack several pairs of shoes in your suitcase. One pair of shoes that is simple, easy, and comfortable is what you want. Photographs. These days we have our cell phones. My gosh, they can hold so many photos. Absolutely. And in that case, this is not photographs of the Eiffel Tower, of several of your family members standing in front of a statue of Lord Byron. No, this is for compositions. This is for cafes. This is for streets and alleys. This is for places that can be settings or people that you're running into that are there, crowds of people, individuals, if you get their permission, as long as the language and stuff like that is okay, to where you can get photographs and be able to use them later to build stories off of them. Next thing I'm going to say, local currency and transit cards. If you are using credit cards all the time, you will miss a lot. You will miss farmers markets. You will sometimes miss, like antique places and stuff like that. You'll miss the chance to hold in your hand images that are based on the location that you're going to. You'll notice those differences. The texture of a euro is extremely different than the texture of an American dollar. To have a transit card from different places and just be able to tap it and walk past a bus driver, a subway, a subway turnstile, whatever, makes you look so much more like a local. Number 5 on here, I have thrift stores. And this is one reason to have that FMD suitcase for sure, because if you want to look like a local, you are going to want to wear things like they are wearing. Now, as an American, you can definitely look on the internet and find all sorts of things about where you're going and kind of model your dress based on them, but you don't want to go out and buy a whole bunch of stuff. As well as if you are changing climates, I, for one, do not want to own a peacoat or a down jacket, but I do know that if I was going to Alberta, Canada, I for sure would want one for a short period of time. I would much rather buy one in the thrift store, use it for 3 days, a week, whatever, and then leave it there. That absolutely is the way to lighten your suitcase and be able to still manage things. But here in Houston, I'm not going to use something like that. If I want to look like I belong in Montreal, and I did this years ago in Montreal, I brought just a couple of shirts with me. I went to a thrift store when I got there, and I really, really wanted to dress like the locals. The thing is that the locals all were wearing plain shirts. There was no prints on anybody at all. And I go to the thrift store, and what do I find? Bootleg movie shirts for Vertigo, Life Aquatic, some shirts with prints in French for like local businesses. And yeah, I definitely bought some of those. I did not look so much like a local. I just looked like a tourist from somewhere else in Canada. Next, books. Books are your friend. Anna mentioning that she had brought a library book with her. I do totally bring library books with me. It's a way to read something and have a concentrated amount of time to knock a bunch of pages off of something and get inspired. But bonus points for books you can leave on your trip. If you have a book in your TBR pile that you're considering but haven't read in a while, take it with you on a trip. If it is not absolutely amazing to where you think you might read it again or you absolutely need it, leave it. Leave it in a hotel. Leave it in a free little library. Leave it on a windowsill. Don't leave it in the rain, but basically it might be picked up and someone else can read it. This lightens the load on your suitcase as well. Number 7 right there, a passport. Get your passport, even if your next trip is to Dallas. Do it. It doesn't matter. You should have it, and you should have it way before you need it. Number 8 being a loose agenda. I'll bounce down to the blue box right now. Dealing with bureaucracy is difficult for everyone, but especially those with disabilities. It is better to get a passport a long time before you intend to use it, as the timeline to receive one can be very long. It can be 6 months. If you're planning a trip, or even considering planning a trip, starting the paperwork towards getting a passport is a great idea. If you have no idea when you're going to take another trip, fine. Why not? Why not get a passport? And you can think of it like stamps as well. So stamps, they keep raising the price on a stamp again and again. And, like you got the ones that say forever. You might have bought them that were 65 cents. And now these days it's 85 or something like that to send a letter. No, that's fine. It's forever. So if you get your passport today, who knows? They might raise the price later on. You will have that passport. It is good for 7 years. Next, a loose agenda. A loose agenda is absolutely a tool of a traveling writer, because you're going to want to have ideas about what you want to do, things you want to hit, but you have to be okay with dropping them if it doesn't work, or extending them if you have extra time. If you go to see the Mona Lisa and there are 300 Japanese tourists in your way, wander the rest of the museum. Absolutely. If you get to a place you really wanted to go to, the best pizza in Montreal, and their clothes, cool. Take a walk around the block, see what else is there, find the other things there. You do not specifically need to go to anything at all. And in fact, in terms of earlier things that I had said, staying away from Americans, getting like the locals, a loose agenda is absolutely important here. All right, I'm going to check on the chat again, guys. Rhonda, thank you for that tip. Visit Kentucky's horse farms. Love that. AP saying, Tyler and I did rent a car for one day. The first time we went to Scotland, we took a day trip around Loch Ness, and it is scary. The road signs are totally different. Yes, and you are lucky to get pulled over by a Scotsman. Captain Russell, be sure to respect the weather with your clothing and gear. Absolutely. Although I will take a chance on 3 to 4 hours of getting there and getting to a thrift store, but for sure, do not go and then absolutely, catch yourself in a situation where you will make yourself sick. That will make your, like getting caught in the rain or in the cold or something like that. Ugh. In Germany, in particular, a lot of places still don't take credit cards, so you need cash. Thank you for that, AP. Also, Mexico, Latin America, absolutely. CC, okay, fine. I will take the Reacher characterization. Just go to the thrift store. When I saw that character did that, I was like, he stole that from me. Absolutely. I do see 10 years. Don't know what that means. And touring on a motorcycle is even tighter, CC. Good idea, Rhonda. Absolutely. I wear them. One change is all you get. That is hilarious, Rhonda. I love that. Taking a motorcycle trip is going to be really cutting it to the bone as far as what you can take with you. This is what I mean by comfortable shoes. I do not mean the most comfortable, ostentatious American shoes you can find. I do mean Adidas. Everybody in Europe and Asia loves Adidas. I do mean flats, and I do mean very good, very supportive. Simple leather shoes. A couple examples here. But really, the idea is you want to blend in. You do not want to wear Nike, neon, puffy marshmallow shoes when you are overseas. Absolutely. It's much easier to get along in something that is both simple and easy, as well as, trying to not look like you are there to take pictures of everybody. Don't hold up your phone every time you step into a new place. Wait until a quiet time after you've established yourself in the situation before pulling out the phone and taking any pictures, for sure. Because same thing as the shoes. Here are 3 examples of books I've left places. The Big Picture by Sean Carroll, all about the history of the universe. Yes, I did leave that in a hotel in Hawaii, where they had a bunch of different books that people could pick up and put down when they were on vacation there. The Lovers by Philip Jose Farmer. I left in a cabinet with a couple of other books there in an Airbnb in Cork, Ireland, and Little Fires Everywhere. I was very happy to leave in a small town in Ohio. If you're familiar in the book, you'll get it. Familiar with the book, you'll get it. So, documenting while traveling, pictures, lots of them. As I mentioned before, compositions, not objects. You don't need to be in them whatsoever. You can definitely take 2 sets of photos. You can take your tourist photos. You can also take photos that will help with your writing. Notes, ideas, descriptions of scenes and people are absolutely helpful. You don't have to be good at drawing. You can definitely just do some little stick figures, something like that, if you want to describe a scene and be able to say, this is what I imagine is going on. Also, you should save tokens, especially flat ones that you can glue into notebooks, I would say, as you're moving on. Those tickets from different places, events that you went to, the subway, etc., things that are paper, save them. Sketches and drawings, I already said that. Audio recordings. You can speak descriptions into your phone with an audio app, or a lot of them have built-in ones, and just kind of describe what it is. If you don't have the time, if you don't have the wherewithal, if you don't have the chance to sit down and write by hand what your notes, ideas, and descriptions are, you can just speak them. Absolutely. You can do video, but you standing there with a phone holding it up looking at what's going on is going to take away from the situation. Found myself inside of a second line in New Orleans one time. It was great, enjoying myself. Oh my God, I got to grab my phone. I have to document this. I picked it up. I did a little video. It was about 15 seconds. I put that sucker back in my pocket and went back to being there in the moment. But that is a memory I will not readily forget and that I can go back and look at. In that respect as well, I will say this, that they have done memory tests on people who have experienced things, and those that take more photographs or take video while engaging in an activity have worse memories of what actually happened. The more that you document in terms of photographs and videos, the more difficult it can be to remember what happened in your mind's eye. Seventh right here, mementos and trinkets. This is why you got to have an empty suitcase. You might take back a pair of striped flat shoes from Paris. You might bring back a conch shell from the Bahamas. There are many different things that you might want to take home with you that when you get back, you can examine, that you can hold in your hand, that you can touch, that you can feel. And of course, these can be books. Oftentimes, you'll find books that you will not find in the United States if you're traveling elsewhere, or if nothing else, find them in unexpected, strange situations that make it very interesting and drags you back right to that location. Now, in the bottom corner here, I do have documenting how difficult it can be for disabled individuals to get around vacation spots, foreign cities, and remote locations can be eye-opening. It may seem like a hindrance in the moment, but make it into an asset. Speaking with a friend about them going to Annapolis, Maryland a couple of months ago, and they go to a beautiful spot for brunch about 2 houses down from where their hotel is. It has 3 gigantic steps, and he has difficulty walking, usually uses a walker or a wheelchair. Could not even get into this building. So you had 5 people standing around. It was the whole family all together, and they're like, "Oh, let me help you, let me help you." And he's like, "Just stand back." And very carefully, very slowly made it up those 3 steps, but it was dangerous and it was difficult. And this is not even one that in, a person that in passing, you would notice that they're disabled. But going upstairs is very difficult for them. And if this is your situation as you're traveling, use that as an asset. Use that as words, as thoughts to enliven the situation and bring more visibility to how difficult it is. Because if you're a tourist and you're having difficulty in another city with certain getting to certain locations, a tiny bathroom, etc., imagine how it is for the people that live there that have those disabilities. That is very difficult to understand. Short break for photographs, as I noticed we were on to 145. These are just some places wandering around Houston, wandering around Philadelphia, that I have stopped to think about what's going on. And if I am ever writing about a destroyed dock on Galveston Bay or a brutalist looking brutal looking not brutalist, no concrete involved, no straight lines at all, but brutal looking steel subway station in Philadelphia, an abandoned alleyway with imagining what's back there, or in a College Station in a pink and white strange little coffee shop that I just had to be documented for sure. Other ones as well, bouncing around between, in this case, Hawaii and Los Angeles. You see the things, you see the movies about, where they're driving down the street with all these incredibly tall palm trees. And so, of course, I had to document that. But then being in Hawaii and running into an abandoned train, being up on top of a volcano and looking at the absolutely otherworldly, nearly Mars-like I environment that I was in, could definitely use that for some science fiction for sure. And the interesting thing about being there and doing that was how much dust gets in your shoes. And so I can definitely use little details like that that I would not have thought of if I was not in that place. Going to a little cafe in Burbank, California, and running into the cafe right near Cartoon Network, where apparently all of the illustrators go and have lunch. And so they've dedicated all of the walls to just do whatever you want, bro. So we have Bart Simpson, we have one of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, all sorts of different characters, and these are drawn by the animators who actually make them. And in the center right there, a little place in Hawaii where they had just chickens running everywhere. And you are very much reminded by a stern warning on a sign, do not feed the chickens. But I love the idea of writing a story and having little chickens just running underneath the characters' feet all the time. So, how to decide where to go. If you're trying to travel, if you're trying to be a writer and to travel, you might be inspired because you want to go somewhere. You might be inspired just to go somewhere that's different and interesting. So I will recommend somewhere you've never been. Do it. 2, somewhere that you can afford. Do not blow your budget on a vacation. That is not the purpose of it whatsoever. You can do most of these things much cheaper than you might think if you stay away from the tourists. Go for a culture you're interested in. You might have a backstory, you might have something that your family identifies with. It can just be something, some media that you love. It can be somewhere that you've always wondered about how they live. It's very different. Pick a culture you're interested in so you will stay engaged while you're there. It is always good to go somewhere where you might know someone, perhaps. And I did read several travel writers writing about if they're going to a location, hitting up a couple of people and seeing if they can do things. I used to do this because I also run a restaurant in addition to doing this with Writer's Lunch and with Tomeworks. And I get coffee from local people around here in Houston. And I love going to coffee shops in other places and trading them a bag of coffee. I get into a conversation about the blends, about the locations, about the roasting styles with a barista who otherwise would have said, can I take your order? Okay, iced vanilla latte, you're basic, get out of here. We get into talking about coffee. I trade them for some of what they have. And then a nice thing to do is to turn around and bring it back to the roaster here in Houston, who gave me the original my coffee that I was able to bring elsewhere. So funny little things like that. There was one of the travel writers who said if he wanted to go to a museum, that he would reach out to a curator. It might not work for sure, but it definitely might. And in that case, you might get a personal tour or a meeting with someone who lives there. Cool, awesome. You can ask them where the best bar is around, where they like to go at night. Learn from the locals, and that personal connection is extremely important. Decide how much not understanding the local language matters to you. Definitely, in a lot of countries outside of the United States, it is possible that a large majority of the population speaks English. That's great. But the further and further you go from, let's say, Western doctrine or away from where the tourists are, the more difficult it gets. And I'm going to go back to AP again on that because there are some places for sure where if you are in Scotland, you can totally understand what everybody's saying. And there are some where you will not. They are absolutely speaking English. You cannot understand what they're saying. In the same respect, some towns in Louisiana, you'll have the same difficulty that you would if you were in Peru. Think about it as well. How will you get around when you're there? This is part of that research. Think about where you're staying, where you want to get to, and look up that public transportation. Look up other modes of transportation and figure out how you'll get from one place to the other. Even if it doesn't get you 100% to where you're going, it gets you close. And 7, to Russell's point, climate and tolerance for uncomfortability. Are you going to be okay with going to Harbin, China in the middle of winter for their ice festival? I encourage anybody to Google this thing. It is amazing and it's on my bucket list to go there for the ice sculpture festival in the middle of the winter. This is in Manchuria. It's basically Siberia. It's negative 40 degrees. There is no getting off the plane and deciding to go buy a jacket at a thrift store. No, come prepared. It's going to be uncomfortable. This also goes to the language as well. This also goes to your safety as well. How much tolerance for uncomfortability goes to that flaneur lifestyle, that situation of being unbothered by what's going on around you and being able to figure out how much you can take in terms of making yourself uncomfortable, because you can write about that shit 100%. In the little box in the corner right here, able-bodied persons can make the choice to be uncomfortable a lot more easily than those with specific needs. I'm sorry to say, but it happens. Disabilities, visible and invisible, should always take precedence over travel once. Medication, accessibility, safe spaces, dietary restrictions be available in places you want to travel to. It can be very difficult. Now we get towards the end. I swear what to look for to get the most out of your traveling. When you are sitting down at a cafe with an espresso in front of you and a little pastry right next to it, you're in Brazil. You're in Tokyo. You're in Sydney, Australia. Watch the things that are around you. Think about that cafe as a location. Could you use characters that you already have and put them into this completely different situation? Look around at the people around you. Take a walk around the block after your coffee. Stop and scribble in your notebook. Look at your phone as two people are having an argument about the fact that the one has a flat tire and can't get out of the way of the other person's car. Just imagine what the rest of their life is. Sketch it, write it down, whatever works. As you are walking, as you are looking at things, those thoughts that pop into your head about life and work are terribly important. Find your peace as you travel. And I did love being in San Juan, Puerto Rico, and wandering the back streets there and coming across huge, massive graffiti murals. They're terribly interesting. To be in Curacao on an island in the Dutch Antilles, and to wander around town, go into a grocery store and buy a melon milk in a carton, and on a short stone wall. And as I sat there, a funeral procession went by. And this was a very Caribbean, or if you're familiar with New Orleans, pretty similar. Jovial, celebratory funeral. And I just sat there and just took it all in. Your spontaneous interactions are terribly important, absolutely. It is super important to let those happen. Introverts, I'm sorry to say, extroversion helps here, or at least a couple of beers can get you there. Being able to have spontaneous interactions is super great to spur on your writing and interesting things. 5 right here, differences between where you are and where you live. Write them down. Think about them. How would you try to live if you lived in this place? Or if someone lived here and they're suddenly on a vacation in your hometown, how would that go for them? You can take those observances and amp them up 1,000%. This does not have to be real life. This does not have to be your life. It can be a totally different life and in a real world situation, or you can take parts of these situations and turn them into fantastic places. Little caveat down there at the bottom: if writing while traveling is too difficult, document first. Take your photographs, do your audio, maybe take some video, sort it out when you get home. Some of these situations can be absolutely overwhelming. And in the case of a huge amount of people or a lot of noise, it might not be possible for you to really concentrate in the situation. But bring it back, find those images and situations that you can create a story with. We're going to use these observances as vignettes in the context of a story, creating characters based on imagined backstories, We're going to change the context of an observed character to fit your already imagined world. You're already working on a story. You go on vacation. Boom, you're adding more to this story. Other than that, you can use the world you've traveled to as a basis to create an imagined civilization. Wow, I really butchered that sentence. Now, you can, of course, stay inside your head and document your thoughts in situations. This is the Marcel Proust, the George Orwell Down and Out in Paris and London, the Hemingway in every book he ever wrote, way to build on travel. You can definitely write sketches of ideas and rewrite when you're back home, and you can use your travel to setting for a story you already have. Just change up the scene. Or maybe this is the next chapter. Where do they go? Leave you guys with this as well, to think about this and to disconnect. If you are traveling, stay off the internet. Really absorb what's around you. Don't worry about the news. Put your phone on airplane mode. You don't have to be on an airplane to put your phone on airplane mode. Only take essential electronics. Yes, you probably do need a phone. These days, that is really a thing. But if you don't specifically need your computer, that's weight. You don't need to do it. Use cash. Don't worry about your credit card bills. Don't run up that credit card. This is a way to separate this vacation from the rest of your life. Use physical wayfinders. You can use maps. You can use what am I thinking? You know, this is the thing about European towns, is that often they have the church spire in the center, so you can use it as a place to say, okay, this is X amount far away from the center. And delete some apps before leaving home. You do not need all the notifications. If this is something that you just like to look at, you know, TikTok or something like that, that eats up time when you're between things at home, delete it. Delete it before you leave. And if you are leaving the country, be aware as well that you might want to delete apps before you leave the United States, because on your way back, it is very possible for immigration officials to decide to look at your phone. Don't give them any reason to want to look too deeply into your phone. It's just practical. Other than that, I'm going to pop this up everywhere. Anna wearing her hiking book everywhere. Thank you, Russell. Not 7 years. Passport is good for 10 years. Anna saying I take fewer pictures on trip than I used to. Yeah, you just want to enjoy and see with your eyes. Oh my gosh, you have some Civic coffee, Rhonda, Jamaica specialty, and that's interesting. Yes, Russell, thank you for so many memories. All my pictures have been so many pictures. See the space for a book. Your research travel is tax deductible as a writer. So true. Absolutely. And that does include the plane. That does include the hotel. That does include all of your food. Bouncing again after that. And, oh my, yes, Rhonda, I do hope you did right about the time you had guys with guns charge out of elevators, split around you, and charge across the crowded hotel lobby. You're reminding me of Bel Canto, a hostage book, and AP saying when we're traveling internationally, our phones stay on airplane mode all the time. It is too expensive other than connecting to Wi-Fi. I love that. Cece, thank you so much. Always nice to see you, and I hope your work is going well today. Not too stressful. Leave you guys with some notes on notebooks. I love to put a sticker on the front of notebooks. Seems very silly in the moment, but then if you do end up with, I do, as a stack of notebooks, these silly little stickers will make it easy for you to tell the difference between the ones that you're using. Those are for the basic ass ones. On the bottom there, I do have some interesting ones, different types of notebooks. And you don't need a sticker on those because they're individual as they are. On the first page of a notebook, you do want to put something in there saying, if found, I would love this back, and contact information, an email address, a phone number, absolutely. Saving things in notebooks. Here's a couple examples from mine. That is a feather and a note thing from a book. I'm sorry, from a movie stubs from Cinemark. some examples of sketches, and they don't have to be good. Looking out of a plane and seeing the fields in an Arizona, fields of an Arizona farm, and the just interesting shapes that they made. A little sketch of a New Year's party, the three floors of a bar, and all the strange objects that I saw there, and from above, kind of a map of a area. Now, another note about pens and airplanes, where it says Arizona Mountain right there in the corner. Sometimes with the pressure changes, it will destroy a pen. So sometimes it's better to write in pencil when you're on an airplane. Fair warning, as my notebook and that Airbus engine found out. Other things as well is writing down little bits, little notes on conversations, words that I hear. This is from Los Angeles, and being at some poetry readings and hearing different things that were very cool, but also passing the time, writing, sketching by just meaning that I am just moving forward and not feeling like I have to pull out my phone. A couple of examples of people who have traveled and done terribly interesting things with it. Ian McDonald, I did not a series, I would say, but several great novels. Dervish House, Brazil being one, Brazil with a Y, and River of the Gods. And he just traveled to these places and wrote near future science fiction about 20 years in the future, based on what he saw, and then just using his technological ideas to absolutely change what he saw. Nnedi Okorafor similarly travels to West Africa and writes a lot of great science fiction, including this one, Noor, about a cyborg character who has to flee out into the deserts, runs into a haboob, which is a giant windstorm, that is actually protecting a civilization that has left society. I don't think I'm giving away too much because that's pretty close to the beginning of the book, but in that case, like, this is an idea that she got from traveling and literally seeing these things. Annihilation by Jeff Vandermeer. He lives on the Gulf Coast, but it's very much of a place. And his novels are very interested in the natural world, finding things, and really inhabiting that space. So we get to travel by reading Jeff Vandermeer's novels. I'll leave you guys with this as well from Plato. I know not how I seem to others, but to myself, I am but a small child wandering upon the vast shores of knowledge, every now and then finding a small bright pebble to content myself with. Make those shores big and wide and long and find new things, guys. Absolutely. If anybody has stuff in the chat, please let me know. Otherwise, you can unmute, say hello, whatever works. What are your thoughts on travel? What are your thoughts on my using it as a writer? Absolutely. And Shannon as well. My traveling for writing conferences is tax deductible for sure. Yay. All right. Now, at the beginning, I did not remember to say, hey guys, Shannon or Anna, what are we doing on a writer's lunch next week?
The problem is whether Shannon or Anna remember.
Yeah, see, that's why I didn't push it. I was like, oh, I have no idea.
I can look it up. Just give me a second.
It's all good. Xiaoyan, I'm glad you enjoyed. Absolutely. I very happy to see some of our returning folks, Houstonians, etc., as well as new faces. Always, heck yeah, on Writers Lunch. I wonder if we have our Eventbrite on our YouTube. That would be a great way to backlog so people can find new ones as well. Oh, Ryan, yeah. So, Eventbrite for Houston independent authors, I do believe, might be on Tomeworks. We have the Science Fiction and Fantasy Writers Meetup on Monday at Melange Creperie at 6:30. And that's going to be specifically on Monday the 28th. Absolutely. So come out there and meet some other sci-fi fantasy or any authors. Y'all are all welcome, absolutely. We just might have some very dorky concepts. Anna.
Next week on Writer's Lunch, we're gonna have Ian talking about unconventional fantasy settings.
Very cool.
Yeah.
And then, since we are talking about other stuff, do not forget if you have time this weekend, we are having our Ask an Editor hour on July 26th at 2 p.m. We are going to be talking about writing and selling holiday fiction. So, if you are looking to write, say, a romance that's Christmassy, so that you can sell for the Christmas audience, or if you're looking to do, Halloween horror or anything like that. We're going to be talking about some do's and don'ts to incorporating holidays into your fiction, and then also the process of, getting it out there and how that differs from, say, other stories that don't have holiday specific themes.
Heck yeah. Need a link for that for Saturday. Rhonda's asking in the chat.
I'll get that up
And
in just a second.
we'll have that. I won't let it go. Absolutely. But thank you guys. And I do hope you get the chance to travel soon and find some cool things. Oh, there it is. If anybody wants to come out on Saturday and talk to us on Ask an Editor Hour and see the cool things that we come up with. We toss that on YouTube, right?
No, we don't
Yes.
yet. We
Oh,
should.
yeah, we could.
That one is one of those where we usually kind of keep it just on the day. And then if you want to be able to ask questions ahead of time, Anna may be able to get this out. But we do have a Patreon, and we do prioritize people who have joined a Patreon tier.
Absolutely. Do appreciate you guys helping us out, and some of those Patreon tiers are awesome because that means you get to have some reviews of your work, and it's always great to have a professional editor look at your stuff, be able to push that forward, and just help you with little things as you're working towards your writing goals. Absolutely. Thank you
And
for
we
the
haven't talked
Patreon
about
link
the
in the chat.
Patreon in a while, but if you want any of us to help follow along behind you, and help you with either your editing or have like an accountability buddy to remind you to write, because that can be very hard, especially if you're just starting or have a busy life. Some of our Patreon tiers will help with that. And Sean or I or Anna or Daphne will not necessarily crack the whip, but we'll kind of help you be accountable and get your words down. And then again, the Patreon tiers do cover editing. So if you're not ready yet, but you will be ready soon, it's a good way to get a discount on that. Our Patreon basically helps you instead of us in a lot of ways, but not in a bad way. We just really want to be able to help authors.
The
So sorry,
forward
I will.
thinking, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yay. Awesome, guys. Thank you so much for coming to Writer's Lunch this week. And I do hope you get some good ideas for traveling and how to maximize your traveling. Oh, I'll bring this up as well, since notebooks are awesome to take with. And, usually it's around this size or something. There are those tiny ones, good for pockets. But I have found these to be very interesting, Japanese ones that are tall. And so they fit into a pocket, but have a lot more room to draw in. So I like these kind of tall ones as travel ones. And if you make it to a Japanese bookstore like Kikino Mori out in Katy, Texas, they have a lot of very interesting notebooks, very good for traveling. Have a good day, y'all.
Thank you, Sean.